Okay, so we're here to tell our politicians that we are going nowhere. We're demanding justice, accountability, and freedom for the Palestinian people so that they acknowledge that Israel, the colonial settler state, is guilty of imposing apartheid and oppression on the indigenous people of Palestine. Unless we stop this, unless we get there and say something, we're going to lose hundreds and thousands of lives more. But amidst all this darkness, I look forward for being amongst my friends and my big family here, people of conscience who believe that civilian population should never be subject to this, should never be punished by war crimes. That's the worst in humanity. And your solidarity is really great and will have enough impact to change the situation in the world. And we travel together every day because we are together. We're here to empower justice and make changes. And thank you very much. May God protect you for everything you do. Whether through boycotts, or the direct actions, social media, or social shunning, we are the people of the world who must make sure that Israel has to pay for their crimes and for their criminality. Most Palestinian activists like us do not really share what they experience from threats, from defamation, criminalization, because we see it as something very small to what the people in Gaza are experiencing. It's like a minuscule for what we watch. Those people are being slaughtered when the pro-Zionist people chant, "No ceasefire." Supporting Palestine also became a fireable offense. Just if you want to walk out of your job or if you want to quit, just say "Free Palestine" and you're gone. And despite the bias of the Western media, but citizens around the world are with us. Does everyone feel that they are the same since October 7th? Tell me. The lens you see the world will never be the same. Those videos coming in real time and what comes on from the media, they contradict each other. Yeah. The strength, the cries, and the resilience of those Palestinian people for 75 years shouting, "See us, hear us," have fallen on deaf ears for all the years. We're not asking CBC to be pro-Palestine. We're just asking them to be objective, to put the truth in front of the people, the facts on the ground that are very clear. Occupation is clear. It's illegal. It's clear. It's funded by the US. It's clear. The apartheid is clear. The genocide is clear. Never in history there was a military occupation that targeted hospitals, doctors, and patients and fleeing refugees like Israel did. Unfortunately, the double standard in the world is also clear. And if the Canadian people knew what was happening in Palestine, there would be insurgents of resistance that Canada would not be able to ignore. I just imagine the terror, if you can imagine that, the equivalence of 3 nuclear bombs were dropped on the most densely populated area in the world, in Gaza, in the span of 1 month. Pregnant women having the C-section without anesthetic. Babies in incubators, no fuel, no food, starvation, searching for water just like searching for gold. Every inch bombed, civilians bombed, hospitals bombed, schools bombed, bakeries bombed, refugee camps bombed, mosques bombed, churches bombed, ambulances bombed, UN buildings bombed, Khan Yunis bombed, Gaza City bombed, Rafah border bombed, and the international law is so paralyzed to stop this. And this is mind-blowing, genocidal Zionist violence against my people, the defenseless, the helpless, the unarmed, have no army. The call to stop this, 120 UN members in the UN couldn't stop it. 17 UN agencies, 600 leading humanitarian organizations, health organizations, nothing. The Zionist movement, the colonial settler conglomeration, and the Zionist state can never be forgiven for atrocious work that they have done against my people. Enough. We will not forget. We will not forget. Last week, this weekend, my 8-year-old grandson in Ottawa, he was on Parliament Hill, and he became enraged. He's been telling his mom how he wants to meet the Prime Minister to tell him to stop murdering children like him. You can see the pain in Zach's face, in his voice, why a child like him has to fight for the plight of people like him. Why does he have to watch the bloodshed of children like him? And before you ask me why I expose my children and grandchildren to this, I tell you it's an obligation of every Palestinian mother to teach the children the history, even it's deeply, deeply sad. This is our life, and this is my life since I was a child, and I won't change it for anything, because I am not more honorable than the people in Gaza. I will accept all the vitriol, and still I won't be silent. And as business owners, we're not only culinary enthusiasts, but we also advocate for a more peaceful world, a world that holds steadfast and belief in unity and compassion of the people, with a vision of future for humanity and triumph for all people. Also, I can't believe I have to tell you this. No matter how much they try to extinguish the Palestinian people, we are not disposable. We are not disposable. We're humans like you and like everybody else. We want to live in freedom and dignity that we deserve and everybody else deserve. And the world can see now the actions of Israel for what they are. And politicians, conservatives and liberals, you guys are not going to be re-elected. It is, yes, we want a ceasefire, but it's temporary. We need cease occupation. Took people 75 years to actually listen to us, and now they see the truth. From now on, it's free Palestine. It's free Palestine. Thank you very much.
Free, free Palestine!
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 I'm here from the group Queers for Palestine Winnipeg. Really honored to be with all of you tonight. Queers for Palestine formed about a month ago out of the urgent sense that all of us need to do everything and anything we can to stop Israel's genocidal assault on Gaza, on the people of Gaza. And over the past month, we've seen the growth of a global social movement with thousands of people out on the streets in Winnipeg, with millions participating in marches, walkouts, sit-ins, and other forms of direct action worldwide. But while the world majority stands with Palestine, with justice and with liberation, Canada stands with Israel, with genocide, with occupation, with apartheid.
Shame! Shame!
Our so-called leaders refuse to call for a ceasefire, from Prime Minister Trudeau to Premier Canoe to Mayor Gillingham. So we're here tonight at MP Dan Vandal's office because he's part of the machinery of the Canadian state, which belongs to the shrinking bloc of countries that remain supporters of Israel. This is a reprehensible example of settler colonial solidarity. Canada was built on stolen land. It was founded on genocide, the genocide of Indigenous people here, a genocide which is ongoing because the peoples of these lands never gave up. They're still here. They're still fighting for their sovereignty and their lands. So is it any great surprise that the same settler colonial government, which refuses to search the Brady landfill for the bodies of Indigenous women, also refuses to condemn the colonial occupying force which is turning hospitals of Gaza into graveyards? The same settler colonial project which executed Louis Riel 138 years ago today is now siding with Israel as it imprisons and executes leaders of the Palestinian resistance movement by the thousands. So we've been talking to these elected officials who are supposed to represent us. For 40 days, we've been talking to them, we've been pleading, we've been begging, and every hour we spend talking, 6 children in Gaza are murdered. So the time for talk is over. It's time to act. We're done with idle words. We don't need to hear them rattle on. We don't need to hear their equivocations, their justifications. We don't need to hear them talk about both sides We don't need to hear them talk about their love for peace and humanity. We need to hear 4 words. 4 words we need to demand, we need to repeat over and over again. 4 words: ceasefire now, no genocide. Ceasefire now, no genocide. And we know a ceasefire will come sooner or later, the bombs will stop, but we can't be complacent. We can't wait until they decide it's time to let up. Because every day that passes brings a new devastation for the people of Gaza, brings a new hell to Gaza, and every night brings a new nightmare to Palestinians around the world and their allies. We need to do everything in our power to force a ceasefire now. There's no time to waste, the time is now. The Palestinian Youth Movement and others in the Shut It Down for Palestine coalition have urged us to keep building momentum, to increase the pressure with more marches, walkouts, sit-ins, and other forms of direct action directed at political offices, businesses, workplaces that fund, invest, and collaborate with Israeli genocide and occupation. In their words, now is the time for our mobilizations to grow in size, frequency, and focus, building a political climate that makes Israel's business of genocide unsustainable. So that means that the time is now to get organized, to build networks, clubs, affinity groups, cooperatives, or to turn the groups that we're already a part of, whether that's a sports team or a group chat or a book club, a carpool, a faith group, a union, a nonprofit organization, whatever group we're a part of, wherever we come into contact with other people, we can mobilize our networks towards justice and towards liberation, towards freedom for Palestine and an end to the genocide. Queers for Palestine formed out of queer and trans activists and social networks, and we draw on the legacy of militant queer struggles for justice epitomized by the Stonewall Rebellion of 1969 and the AIDS movement of the 80s and 90s. And this is the energy and the experience, the perspective that queer and trans people can bring to the movement for Palestine. Students for Justice in Palestine in Winnipeg and nationally are positioned at the center of ideological and intellectual production. So students across Canada are mobilizing their forces, hosting teach-ins and walkouts, vigils and demonstrations to call for a ceasefire and to press their institutions to support PACB, the Palestinian Campaign for the Academic and Cultural Boycott of Israel. And Labour for Palestine, a pan-Canadian network of labour activists, has just formed a chapter in Winnipeg. Drawing on the power of the working class, without whom the gears of capital would grind to a halt, bringing the war machine to a dead stop. So we all have power. We all have gifts we can bring to the movement, whether we're workers or students, parents or teachers, youth or elders. All of us, in our diversity, people of all faiths and backgrounds, in our multiplicity, in our singularity, we all have the power and the responsibility to act collectively, to do whatever is necessary to help advance the Palestinian people's movement for a real and lasting peace based on justice and decolonization, and condemn a false peace based on occupation and apartheid. We know a ceasefire will come, and when it does, we need to be stronger and more united and more organized than ever before. A ceasefire will come, and when it does, we need to be ready, because that's when our real work begins. Stopping Israel's genocide is the urgent task of the moment, but we can go further. We have to go further. We have to push on towards justice and liberation. We're living through a world historical moment. In the midst of this living nightmare, which weighs down on us with grief and terror, we have an opportunity. Palestinians in Gaza and around the world show us the way. They show us that another future is possible, a future where genocide is not tolerated, where occupation is not normalized, where violence is not built into the very structures of our political and economic and social systems. They show us the road to freedom. And so let's not stray from that path. No genocide, ceasefire now, free Palestine.
I went to Zionist youth camp as a kid. I was a Zionist. I I raised money for the Jewish National Fund. And then 30 years ago, I sort of woke up and said, this is wrong. This can't be right. And so I've been working over a long period of time in a number of different groups, doing this. Now I'm with IJB, which has been a staunch defender of Palestinian rights. But we're also involving other people. Like there's a group of non-Zionist or anti-Zionist Jews who are meeting tomorrow night at 7 at the Ledge, and I think that's a good sign. We never knew about these people. We've been doing this for years, and so I think there's something going on. I wrote another letter to the stupid Jewish Post with all their racist garbage that they publish, just hopefully that there'll be another point of view in that stupid racist paper. So yeah, that's all I have to say. That just that there is some movement in the Jewish community, and I'm part of it, and hopefully it will grow.
Good.